Yeah. I have food on my mind right now because one, you have pizza on your headband,
I do.
and it also looks like you have a little Pikachu Happy Meal over there on the side.
And in it is Pikachu Pez.
There you go. We have a theme. We
Food is
have a
clearly on my mind too, always, but especially now.
yes, yeah. So we have, and for whatever reason, your shirt initially made me think of Chick-fil-A, which is
It,
definitely what it's for.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's chicken. It's definitely I love fried chicken, and that's what it is.
Yes, exactly. And I've recently become obsessed with Nashville hot chicken. So
Mm.
uh, food is all over the place.
Damn.
We're going to talk about food a little bit. Last
Mhm.
time we talked about training while traveling, right? And so they obviously we should probably talk about nutrition while we're traveling. And we both have some very recent experience with this.
Mm.
And we both have kind of done this in various stages of the bodybuilding process. And hopefully we have some interesting things to share that might give some people some ideas or some tools of what to think about when they go to approach, how to plan this kind of thing. Or maybe there's some instances where you're better off not planning it super in depth.
Mm.
So um, I think the first thing, maybe place to jump in, would be we need to decide how closely we got to track this kind of stuff. And that depends on where we're at in the process. So, do you want to maybe throw out some initial ideas of where you're at in the process? Like, why does that matter?
Mm.
Right? Like, why do we need to think about that so much?
Yeah, I think great place to start. And if you did watch or listen to the last episode, you'll kind of see we're starting off with a lot of similarities because it is important to lay down the foundation of what kind of travel it is, where are you at in your timeline, because then again we're going to be able to get as close as we can or want to based on those needs. And we want to start there, give it that time, especially with nutrition, because it's often a little bit harder to approach because it's just a lot more moving parts, a lot more variables, a lot more considerations, and often it becomes a lot more. It's just a lot more scary because you're like, okay, this is where it can be easy to mess up or easy to, just if I need to be on top of my goals, how do I integrate that? Because I'm in a completely new environment. For some people, that's scary in itself.
Sure.
So adding fear on top of fear, like, oh gosh, what these goals, and important to talk about that. But yeah, I think as you had said, an easy way to look at it is, one, like, are you competing or not? That's the thing. Because if you are, unfortunately, it looks like we're gonna have to tighten things up a little bit. And I'm probably speaking to myself because I have a little bit more travel coming up as well. And I'm like, well, I'm not gonna be able to go to Vito's Ices and Slice in New York when I'm there for an anime convention and have 3 to 4 pieces of pizza. I'm just not gonna be able to, right? Because it's just that's gonna be 8 weeks out,
Very
and
sad.
unfortunately, but that's okay because I'll be next year. We're going to be in New York probably again, and we'll do it there. So it's just like stuff we'll get into. But yeah, I think first off, starting like what does your timeline look like? Like how, and not only your timeline, but what is that goal? Like if you're just in it for like I want to lose weight, right? There's no strict deadline as in like a competition or a photo shoot or anything that's very time specific. We have a lot more room to work with, and sometimes people may not realize that because they're like, well, yeah, this goal. I'm super focused, which is great, but also like how much do we want to you know change things? If do we even need to change things? How much is that going to affect the actual vacation slash travel slash thing you got going on, right? So the timeline helps us to give more of an idea of where along that spectrum of keeping things exactly the same versus doing things completely different or not even thinking about doing things. And again, that's going to be very fluid based on individual, based on goals, based on what the travel looks like. So yeah, I think one, like, are you competing? Two, what is that goal like? What's the timeline like? Three, you know, where's your headspace at with that? Because again, sometimes people just have these goals and it's important to them, and maybe it's a travel that's not, that different from normal. So maybe they're going to be at a place for 4 weeks, but it's going to be an hour away. Like they just have to drive up and be somewhere, and they have to do some work. So they can keep it as similar as they want to. Sure, we can have some, you know, resemblance of what things are look like. So yeah, it's the timeline. I think that's the biggest thing is starting there and figuring out what that goal is. But what exactly, what then comes next? We got the timeline, or at least we're thinking about what that kind of looks like. What comes next in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. depending on that timeline, that helps to determine how on point we got to be,
Mm.
right? And like you said, if you're not competing, you don't have that hard deadline, then it's sort of a judgment call, right? Like maybe you want to be super on point, and that's totally valid, and there's no, that's not a bad thing. But maybe you also want to just go, like, let's be honest, right? We are all human. Food is fun. It's an enjoyable experience, and it can be, everyone always likes to talk about like, well, there's other fun things you can do, other social things you can do that aren't centered around food. And like, yes, that's true. I love food though,
Yeah.
right? Like that's important. I want to.
It,
I,
yeah.
I was just like, if I go to Nashville, I want to eat Nashville hot chicken. If I go to Italy, I want to have pizza and pasta in this house. Like if I go to Texas, I want to get barbecue. I want to enjoy the food that place is known for that I can't just get at home. Right.
Yeah. And one of the main differences is that everyone needs to eat. Not everyone needs
Yeah.
to train, like to survive. So there's also that thing of like, okay, I'm gonna have to eat in some way. So I can't avoid it. Whereas if some training stuff, you could just skip it if you need to, or you can just have it be a deload, whatever it is. But you're like, okay, food is going to be involved in some way. How do we plan for that?
Totally. Yeah. So like, if you, I think so much of this, some of it is if you're competing and you have a hard deadline. Sometimes it's kind of out of your hands. You kind of just got to do what you got to do, which is unfortunate, but sometimes that stems the breaks. Sometimes you have enough time, like you mentioned that time frame to competition. You have enough time, you have some more wiggle room, you can plan for that. If you don't have that hard deadline, now I think it's mostly just a judgment call of do you want to take this time away from being on point and maybe extend the total length of the diet, but you get to enjoy the trip? Or is the opposite feel more worth it to you? Just your personal values and what you're looking for. So I think that's usually the next step for me is like, okay, we've established whether or not there's a deadline. We've established what the timeline looks like. And now it's asking the person or asking yourself, what do you value most about this experience? Is it staying on track and keeping to your goals with that stuff as much as possible? Or is it getting the most out of the food experience in this place, which some people don't care about at all? Sweet. Some people care about a lot. Sweet. Right? It just depends on the person. So that's usually the next place that I go.
In along the lines of your timeline and your goals, with that gives you more of an idea of like where we want to go next, which is primarily, are you actually dieting or are you just maintaining,
Sure.
right? Or are you gaining? Because then that makes things a lot easier, right? Because if you're just gaining weight, and this is going to be helpful. You're going to potentially be able to eat more food. Maybe you're struggling to eat food, cool, or you get to try something different. Like you don't have to worry about it maybe at all if that's what you want, because you're like, hey, this is actually part of the plan. It's kind of integrated into it, where it's just I have to get in 4,000 calories anyway, and we're going to be doing that plus walking probably, and it'll be fine. Maybe I'm going to struggle to eat enough because things are so different, right? Sometimes you run into that wall, and you're like, okay, I need to make sure I'm still eating enough because I want to be at X amount of surplus, whatever that is. Or if you're at maintenance, still have some wiggle room, right? Where you can decide, like, yeah, just still be kind of free to do as I want to. Or maybe if, looking at your past experience, if you struggle with that, like maintenance is hard for some people, I know it has been for me, then you're like, okay, I would like to have a little bit more direction, right? I'm going to move that needle closer to this area on that spectrum and have a little bit more direction, a bit more planning ahead of time, just so I can make sure I'm not getting too far away of where I want to, right? I don't want to put all the stress on future Colby to be like, dude, good luck dealing with all this, both
Yeah.
scale weight wise, physical wise, mental wise. Like I'm gonna that's future Colby's problem, not me. But again, that can be avoided if you need to and want to, based on the goals, based on what you look like. And then of course, like dieting, again, you're gonna have to make a lot more decisions there and think a little bit more. And that's where a lot of the discussion today is going to be talked about, right? Because like I said, that's where we need more of that direction. So yeah, like I said, then comes what kind of trip it is, and I think we briefly touched upon that on the training side of things and just now. But I think to add some more there is, is it actual vacation? Like, are you going on a cruise? Right? Like, is it meant to be just chilling, like straight up chilling, right? Or is it one of those work jobs or work trips that you are going to be out eating with clients so often, right? Now that's something that I have. It's like, cool, like business clients, we're going to meet up and have dinner 5 days a week. And also we have lunch catered to us. Like what does that look like? Because then sometimes you're also be like, hey, well, here are the cards that are given to me during this situation. And then I have to, base it off of that. Because I've had clients who come to me saying like, hey, I pretty much have no control over this next 3 weeks. Or if I do, it's more of what I choose to eat, but what is given to me is given to me, and then I choose portion size. So then comes that dialogue of, okay, how do we navigate that kind of situation, right? Or on the other end of the spectrum, is it going back to that idea of it being a cruise? Is it just all you can eat buffet options, right? And I mean, you're on a boat, you can only eat those things. How do you navigate that? Or just you're, like we talked about before, maybe you're just going to Japan and you're walking around and you could do and eat whatever you want, but where do you need to be there? So kind of knowing what the trip is like, where, what kind of just information you're working with, what kind of, do you have other people that you have to consider too, right? Like we talked about briefly in the training side of things as well, is do you have to be considerate of, okay, well, what does my partner want to eat? What does the group want to eat as well? Like, are we going to be going out a lot? Because like you had said, food is very much a people bringer together or thing. I don't know, I'm making up that word, but yeah, we tend to do a lot of hanging out around food, which makes sense because again, we all need to eat, and it's easier to just get together and kind of check two boxes at once, if you would. So yeah, the kind of trip is helpful because then that gives us how realistic and feasible things are, where we need to be, and then from there we can kind of be a little bit more specific with our guidance to ourselves or to our clients or the conversation we have with a coach, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, very well said. All that kind of stuff. Especially the most well said part was the bringer together.
Knew it. Is it? What is it? 11? It's too early to say prep brain, so I can't use that excuse. I'm waiting to use that, but it was a mixture of I just couldn't find the word of like the unifier of meals, but like something like that. It's just that's just fun, right? Bring people around together with food. Makes sense.
But yeah, all that stuff. Jokes aside,
Yeah.
very important and super uh, vital. Honestly, dialogue to have with your coach if you're working with a coach, or just if you're doing everything on your own, just to try to think through. Right, super important. And it's equally important to try to come up with things that are realistic. Um, Perfect example. Recent experience. I have had experiences where I had this dialogue and I had a plan and I nailed it and it was great. I was super happy with how it went. I've had other times where it didn't work out quite that way, right? Like recently, I had this super long. It was like a 3-week road trip. We're gonna stay on point. It's gonna be great. And we're going. The next thing I know, I'm having Nashville hot chicken 3 different times, which like to me that was worth it. Like I made the conscious decision. This is more calories, right? But I am in Nashville and I have to try it once, and it was just so amazing. I had to have it again. You know what I mean? And like I made the conscious choice that like this is the trade off that I'm making, and that's okay. But you just to go in with eyes open, right? I think is important, and do your best to have that realistic plan. And we'll talk about some action points, some things to like try to think about when you're making that plan. But I think also, if you show up to this, for me, it was the road trip, or maybe it's a wedding you go to, or like you said, a work function where you're there trying to be with potential new clients or whatever it is. That if you find out the plan is not realistic, that number one, is that actually true, or are you just having a moment that you need to like no, like look this way, lock in, and do your thing? Like that is sometimes that is the case, right? Sometimes you do have to kind of smack yourself in the face a little bit and just like, nope, I gotta lock in. Sometimes it's also okay to be like, I had this plan, but like now that I'm here, what's actually most important to me is this experience with these people in this place, and I want to do this, and I'm okay with the trade-offs.
Mhm.
Like all of these things are fine. It just depends on the situation and where you're at in your what you're doing with bodybuilding or what you're doing with life or with these people or whatever, right? So all of like we've been saying, all these things we've thrown out, like there are infinite, probably not infinite. There's many combinations of these different things we've talked about that depending on your person and the situation and all that kind of stuff, you're going to wind up in a different place with different things being what feels like the best plan or what is actually the best plan or
and and I'm gonna say this, and I think we've said iterations of this on every episode, but for a good reason, is when you have a good grasp on your values and what these things mean to you, what bodybuilding means to you, what your training, what your nutrition means to you. Again, the specific goal that you're at, all these things that we talk about taking the time to think about and set up early on. it then makes all these decisions a little bit easier, because you can be like, well, yeah, of course, I'm not going to be in Japan for maybe I'll never be here again. So I'm going to enjoy my food, especially because I'm far away from competition. Or even if I am close to competition, just right now, I really want this karaage fried chicken. Like, that's what I want. I'm gonna eat it, right? So like there's that dialogue where you're able to make these connections and have that kind of checklist, or that just kind of flow chart in your head of how to make the current decision, because you have everything laid out. You kind of have the groundwork in a sense of values, understanding things, what training, nutrition, all that means to you. So yeah, I think that comes into play here too. We don't just say stuff just to say it. We say it to come back and think about it as well. But I just find that has been helpful for me, because like in those situations that you've talked about, right? I actually have a wedding coming up as well at the end of the month, so it'll be the week after I go to New York. So I'm gonna be in New York, missing out on the pizza, and be like, that's cool. Then the week after, I'm going to Minnesota, and like, I don't know I don't know what's gonna be there. I haven't done my research yet, but this is why it's cool to talk about this now, because we can kind of give myself thinking
There
about
you
these
go.
things, right? So it's like, or got to figure out how that's gonna look, because again, I don't know. I'll have to figure it out, but it's going to be a lot closer to competition. That'll be like 7 weeks out or something like that. And it's like, okay, I'm going to need to be very specific about my approach, and plan ahead and do all these things. So yeah, like, what should I do, Jake? Tell me, please. I don't know.
Eat everything, go completely off plan, and
Got
don't
it.
care at all about the actual results of it.
Got it. Oh, hopefully it's an open buffet and I just don't think at all, and try to hit a PR on the amount of, pulled pork that I eat, whatever is there. I don't
Think
know.
about our role models, bro. Like, what would Goku do? What would Luffy do? What would all,
It's true.
we're gonna eat everything.
I'm just gonna be Kirby. Just
Good.
vacuum everything up.
That's pretty good. Um, so, I mean, what should you do, right? I mean, it depends on so many things, and like we've been saying, obviously it depends on so many things. And I know, like from my experience, I have sometimes if you have the space, and like example for you, right? I think that's a good segue, a good reason to kind of talk about this part of the planning process is if there's this situation where you do have a deadline and you are dieting for a very specific reason, it's really important to you, and we don't want to sabotage that, right? Like we need to keep that the priority, right? Because you've done so much work already to get to the point in prep where you're at now, that you want to get to show day knowing that you did your absolute best. You know what I mean? Is it going to be perfect? Of course not. Nobody's prep is perfect, but we want to do our best. And so with this travel stuff, right? Maybe, and this is a conversation for you and your coach or whatever to have together, right? But like maybe you try to land it and have it coincide with a refeed or with a diet break or things like that, where you can kind of build in that flexibility. And I've done that with clients before, and it often works out really, really well. People like to just feel more free when they're on vacation, right? Or and so like maybe that's something that you explore. Maybe you find out you get up to that point. I've had this with me, where like we make that plan, and then a month or two, whatever goes by, and we're at that point where it's time to pull the trigger, and I'm just like, actually, I kind of need that time to lose weight, and so maybe we got to call an audible, and actually we can't take a diet break right now,
Mm.
which is a huge bummer. But sometimes that's just how it goes, right? But like if you can try to plan things like that, that can be a useful strategy.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's often where I go to too. It's like we talked about. It's like different levels of planning, right? Knowing like, when is the trip? How long is that trip going to be? How far are we? When do we need to start thinking about these things? And when do we need to make the actual decision on that, right? And the more time you give yourself and or your coach to think and discuss these things, the more accurate and easier it's going to be. So I think that's an important note as well. Say, hey, like, hey, coach, instead of being like, hey, coach, tomorrow, guess where I'm going? Cancun. And you're like, oh, what? I didn't know that. We're 6 weeks out. So it's
Yeah,
like, okay, whoops. So that's helpful. And yeah, I think if the cards line up, that's one of the most smooth ways of having it work out. Is we're like, hey, this is going to be a diet break, where it's going to be a whole week of back to maintenance, because maybe that's where we want to be. And that's what I did on my recent trip when I went out to LA for the anime convention. It was like already 14 weeks of dieting, I believe. So it was around that point, and it was approximately 18 to 20 weeks out. So it's like, okay, it'd be nice to have this little break mentally, knowing that I'm like roughly halfway, or have 16 weeks, 18 weeks, 20 weeks to then go again. Like if anything, that mental boost of taking a break, rest stop, filling up all the tanks, physical, mental, glycogen, all that stuff, and then be ready to hit the ground running again, then that's a good thing. So I think that's a great way to think about it. But if I'm using myself again in this context, is okay, I have that New York trip coming up at the end of the month, and I just had that refeed or that diet break. Doesn't look like we're going to happen because we want to make sure we're ahead of the game. So maybe that's not going to happen. Maybe we can be, if we can line that up with our refeeds. So the way I'm approaching my diet currently is my 5 low days, 2 high days. Those high days typically end up on the weekend. So it kind of works out in that way where I can have at least 2 of those days of the travel, depending on how much it actually is. I have to figure that out too. But 2 of the days, I know I have the room and the flexibility to be like, I have a little more calories to work with. And then I can use that to my advantage. And it also helps me kind of ease the stress a little bit, right? And what I found specifically there with the diet, the whole week diet break, was that it was just so easy because I was like, yeah, this is part of the plan. Instead of thinking about like, oh gosh, what do I have to do? Like, what should I be in my calories? I was even maybe a little bit more lenient of like not tracking too much, but I was like staying within certain, like, just certain guidelines of, okay, if I'm going to eat out, try to eat out maybe once, and the other ones just maybe have more food like that I can prepare myself, or more protein and fruit, and then have a snack here that's protein based and vegetable based, and then save a lot of calories for a meal that's out, right? Kind of dipping into the stuff we talk about later on in this episode, but just knowing what the week looks like, knowing what the intention of that approach is so helpful. So in that case, if you can line it up with it, it's like you're not even stressed about it because you're like, yeah, this is part of the plan. I'm filling up these tanks so I can come back and have great training again and be ready for this next push of dieting, which is going to be harder. So it's just like, cool, that's part of the plan. And you keep telling yourself that, and it helps so much. So like, if you can make that work, absolutely. And then same thing with refeeds. You're like, yeah, I have 2 higher days. This is part of it. But it's only 2 higher days. So I have to make sure I respect that too and stick to my 2 lower days while I'm away, because if I don't, that's not part of the plan. And then future Colby's going to be a little bit upset when those glutes don't come in striated. And I want those glutes to come in striated. Will they? We don't know yet. But tune in next time and find out.
Yeah. And I love that you said that you have to respect that, like, not every day is going to be a high day, right?
Mhm.
Like, you have to, diet break doesn't mean just eating whatever you want for that week on vacation, obviously, right? Like there has
Cheat
it
week,
can
bro. Cheat week.
yeah, it can be that if you're aware of the trade-offs and it's worth it and it makes sense. I'm not saying to never do that. Like, I've done that. You know what I mean? I'm sure we all have. But in your case, or a lot of people, if you have a deadline and these things, the diet break, it needs to still be structured, right? You can have more food, of course, but like, it can't just be eating everything in sight. That's not going to be very helpful. And you can also, sometimes I'll do stuff like this too, where you try to kind of go out of your way to be a little more active also, right?
Mm.
Like, we talked about last time, if you're training also while you're on the trip, like, try to hit a little bit of cardio also, or try to get some extra steps in, or try to, like, you could go to a park and like sit here and just look at the sights, and that's really nice. You could go to that park and walk around and look at everything. It's like trying to build a little bit of that into your day, just to help err on the side of caution, offset some of that stuff. Because a lot of times also, you mentioned this too, you might go out to eat, right? Probably will, right? Most of these sorts of trips, and we can estimate stuff reasonably well, but we're probably going to underestimate some things here and there. So trying to do some things to compensate can be helpful.
Yeah, like the activity part is super helpful. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes people are most active when they're out on traveling, right? Because they're like, damn, we're not going to pay for an Uber to go everywhere. So we're just going to walk places because we save money, and we get to also, like you said, experience the sights along the way to the site or to the food place or whatever it is. And it's just like, that's always a cool way. I prefer that way too because I just love walking. I don't mind that at all. And like for me, it makes sense. So it's like, cool, keep that activity up, enjoy things a little bit more, and also just kind of plan for that. So if you're on the other boat where maybe you are trying to be closer to maintenance, like plan for higher activity levels so you can have a little bit more food. But that just sounds fantastic to me. So like more food. Yeah. Right. So yeah, that's and most of my travel lately has been like anime convention. So it's like easily getting 20,000 steps because we're walking around the convention or walking to and from and all that stuff. So like that helps a lot too. And yeah, it's again, planning ahead can just be so helpful. And if it's your first time, especially doing some kind of travel plus trying to navigate these goals, it can be scary. So give yourself plenty of time, like we said, but know that that skill, because it is a skill, will also get better over time. Like I've done small, I've only really done small trips, never done like big trips technically. So all the small trips, like I already know how the planning goes for me, just for like generality. But now it's different because it's like now you have this time for it. So that's going to be new for me. I think I'm going to come in with the same mindset and a lot of the same approaches, but I'm going to have to practice that skill of saying, like, yeah, we can go out to eat here. I'm not going to get that pizza, right? I'm going to go to the grocery store around the corner and grab a protein shake, or I'm going to bring my baggie of protein and be ready with that, protein bars, whatever it is. But I already planned for that ahead of time, right?
Right.
So all these things where doing that thought early on can be helpful, and mainly because coming to that kind of reality of like, I'm going to have to say no to this food if you have to, right? Like, again, I'm just giving that example because this is maybe the third time I've gone to this anime convention in New York, and we always go to that pizza place. Like that's the spot, right? And it's gonna be sad because I'm gonna tell my brother, "Mate, dude, we'll go. Maybe one of the days I'll have one slice, but I'm probably gonna keep it at just that because I'm 8 weeks out. This goal is super important
It's
to
not
me,
worth
and it's yeah, it's just not worth it. Yeah, exactly. And like, dude, if anything, we'll just come next year. Or if we really had wanted to,
it.
maybe we can make it happen. We'll come a different time. Whatever it is, like that food will technically always be there, right? And this goal right now is just that much more important to me. So like I feel really good about having to make that decision when the time comes because I just keep telling myself that. Like that's just how it is. So it eases a lot of the stresses that can occur when you have that planning ahead of time, especially if you're someone who is more prone to stress or anxiety when dealing with any type of training, nutrition stuff, or travel in general, because travel is inherently stressful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
totally. And,
yeah,
and that's huge. All that planning, all like making that plan, all the stuff we've talked about, right? Consider all the things, make the best plan that you can, and like go in, stick to that plan,
yeah.
right? Because especially if you're competing, by the way, we should say this also. Maybe not the best idea to plan a week vacation 4 weeks out of a show, right? Maybe plan it a little bit different timing. Maybe it just makes your life
I
easier.
can't control the anime conventions. It's not my
That's
fault.
true. But like you're saying, the closer you get, the more you're gonna have to say no to some
Yeah.
things, which can just be a bummer, right? And so sometimes it's easier to just not put yourself in that position. But go in and stick to that plan. So like you have your plan for that convention, and like you can go to the pizza place and you can say no. You can go to this other thing. But like if you didn't have that plan, you're gonna show up at the pizza place and you're gonna smell it, and right, you're gonna want it so bad, and it's really hard to then make a plan in that headspace. It's hard to be really objective. And so like you just gotta decide what you're gonna do and do it basically. Like I had to do this also. Um, this was earlier on in my prep where we were all in Boston, a big group of us, and we were going and just walking through the whatever, and there's like a pizza place every 20 feet. It feels like, and they literally did like a pizza crawl where they just went and got a slice at every place. And I'm just walking through. I have two protein bars and an apple. And I'm like, I guess I'm going to eat this. And I walked with them. And like, that's kind of cool. I felt a little left out, but I was like, it's just not worth it right now. Right. And so like you have to, I think you need to respect yourself enough to stick to your guns, stick to the plan that you made. Know that you talked through all the stuff with your coach or you thought it all through for yourself and you made the best plan that you could. And like we said earlier, it's fine to call an audible and do something a little different, but you really got to think it through. Probably talk to a friend about it, right? And see if they agree that that makes sense and that you're cool with the trade-offs and all that. And so, it's like we're saying, the planning is just it's everything. If you're in that position where you have that deadline and that really important goal, right? If it's just a normal diet, whatever, then more wiggle room.
And
Yeah,
just in general, some people just like planning overall anyway. So that might even be part
yeah,
of your normal travel routine. But now you just add a little bit extra. Right? Okay,
sure.
instead of looking at what are the 4.8 out of 5-star restaurants, let me also throw in some options that perhaps are going to be a little bit more friendly towards my macros, or put in some. And this is what I like to do is look for just like grocery stores that are nearby because I can then go in and pick and eat what I want and create my own meals, even if it's not like I'm not cooking because maybe I don't have access to a kitchen, right? I can be like, okay, let me grab this sliced turkey and grab this bread and make a sandwich myself. Or let me grab some yogurt and have that in the fridge, or whatever it is that you have more kind of selection and choice and ability to craft a more, macro friendly meal if you need to, right? Because like I said, have the homies go order the pizza. But yeah, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go around the corner and go to GNC or go to a vitamin shop or go to X grocery store, and then you come out and you still eat together. You can do that. Again, like I
Yeah,
said, it feels like you might be missing out, but man, especially if they're your actual friends and other people, like they're gonna be like, cool. We're just glad you're here, man. Like we're really just glad you're here because we're here for your company, not for us specifically eating food. Yes, that's part of it, but it's not all of it. And I think that's important to remember too. It's like I'd rather do that, be that guy with a Quest bar and an apple than not show up at all. Because I'm like, hey guys, you guys go have fun. I'll just chill in the hotel and watch this paint dry. That sounds so much fun right now.
yeah.
No,
I
no.
have done that before, to be honest. I have just stayed home because I'm like, I just can't deal with the temptation right now.
Exactly, because there will be situations like that too. So that's where you have to kind of decide based on who you are, where you're at. Like if you're a couple weeks out, like, yeah, there's the temptation will be too big. Then of course, yeah, there's that. But it's yeah, thinking ahead, and then like whenever I go on those trips, it's my Google Maps has like stars and plan to go here and do all this stuff. So like wherever we are, I can just open that up and be like, cool, you guys want to eat here? I'm gonna go grab this real quick. Or if it's a place that I've been to before, I have my like go-tos. It's like, cool, I'm gonna go to Boston this time. And this area, there's just not that many options for food, but there's this market that has an open salad bar. So I'm gonna go there and like grab chicken from the deli spot and then make a salad and have a chicken and salad. I'll save money, I'll hit my macros, I'll feel fuller, feel better, then I'm ready to hit the con again. Right, and rather than having something fried and super expensive that's in the specific convention itself, don't know what exactly went on in terms of macro wise or how they prepared it, and it probably tasted bad anyway, right? So there's like a little bit of extra walking and a little bit of extra thought and all that, but for all the benefits of that, goal and money wise, everything it makes sense. So it's like, cool,
Yeah.
you can do that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like I'm so glad you said that too because it really does check a lot of boxes to do
Mm-hmm.
the go grocery shopping or get some stuff like because not only is it the macros of the food, you save money also,
Mm-hmm.
right? You might also save some time rather than waiting for your food and doing all that stuff, where you can go be doing things,
Yeah.
which is cool. And that was such a game changer for me that now it's most hotel rooms now are going to have a little fridge and a microwave at
Mm-hmm.
least. So like, and you can do a lot with that, right? You can go to whenever I get to a place, it's like one of the first things. Go to a Target or a Walmart
Yeah.
or a whatever, Aldi, whatever you can find, right? And you can get like pre-cooked frozen chicken that you can defrost and eat, or you can get the deli meat, like you said, or you can get some oatmeal and a tub of protein powder and some paper bowls and stuff that you can
Mm-hmm.
use to eat and put in the microwave. Like there's so much stuff you can do, and it just makes your life so much easier. And then what's even easier, is I am such a massive proponent of getting an Airbnb instead of a hotel room now
Mm-hmm.
because most of the time it's similar price if not cheaper. Especially if you get a little bit further, if you're willing to drive into the city or whatever. But now you get a full kitchen, and you can go get like fresh meat that and save even
Mm-hmm.
more money and all that kind of stuff. It just helps a ton with this. And you know you can also like if you drive there instead of fly, well now guess what you can put in your car? More food, right? You can bring
Rice
the huge tub of
cooker.
protein powder. You can. We brought our Ninja Creamy with us
Yeah.
on this huge trip, right? You can do all kinds of stuff, and so it can make your life so much easier if you're willing to just. Does that require more planning? Yes, right. You got to find a grocery store. You got to pack some extra stuff, whatever. But it's so helpful. And the other thing I'll say, let's say we don't want to do that for whatever reason. You can make choices at restaurants beyond just the let me try to get the leaner meat and some veggies or whatever. You can obviously that's a thing, but you can also, especially if the group is cool with it, which is important. Like, can we go to the Subway? Can we go to the Chipotle? Can we go to the Mediterranean place? Can we, like there you can get food. It doesn't have to be pizza
Yeah.
or Chinese food or whatever. That delicious, yes, but more calories, and you can have a little bit more control. You go to some of these other places, and maybe that's worth it.
Yeah, and that's where again the research ahead of time comes into play a lot because I like to do this because food is a big part of life in general for me, but also for travel. And then to add the other proponent of needing it to be macro friendly this time around, it's okay. I need to make sure I have options. And when I'm looking at the options, I'm going into their websites or sometimes on Google Maps itself. They have like the menus there. So
Yeah.
sometimes I already know exactly what I'm going to have because it's like, well, yeah, I don't even have to think about it. Like I know I'm going to have this, and I also know that they have options for this person that's going to be there with me, for this person that's going to be with me, whatever it is. Like there's so many plan A, B, C, D, whatever it is, and like again, it's just don't even have to think about it. So you can do a lot of that ahead of time and be super easy. But even if you can't, or even if things are, there's an audible that's called, and everyone you meet new people at this convention, and they're like, "Cool, let's go get food here." Like, oh, geez, but this, you know what? I don't want to miss this opportunity. We'll go there, and then I'll figure it out. You can ask a lot of questions to the people preparing your food, to the servers. But hey, how do you? What is? Do you see? It says chicken breast. How are you guys cooking it? How is it being served? Like, what else are you putting on it? Sometimes, a lot of places that I go out, they're going to be dousing stuff in a lot of oils and a lot of sauces, which is damn tasty. But the calories can add up. So maybe like, hey, could I have some of that stuff on the side, and I control how much I put on it? That's like a little bit more of a step further if you really need to do that, right? And it could be a little scary task too, because you're like, oh gosh, I'm gonna be that person. But also like you're paying for the food, right? And in a way, so I think there's that option too. It's there's a lot of ways to do it. There's a lot of ways to do it, and just that preparation comes super helpful. And another way to prep that we didn't really talk about is if it's possible, just bring your own stuff. And like, again, when I go on my travels, I just bring a bag of protein with me. Right, and that is just my go-to. So like a lot of the times I'll have, if I'm going for 3 meals, I'll try to save one of those meals for eating out, and the rest it's like protein, I think it's fruit and veg, and then it's protein and a fruit and veg, and then like a bar for a snack if I really need to. So it's like I'm saving 2/3 of my calories or more even for that meal just to be safe. So if you can't bring stuff along with you ahead of time, the protein bars go a long way, and the protein powder goes a long way. Uh, and obviously, just you can easily find some fruits around you if you just pop into a store, a market, whatever it is. Like that's going to be helpful. And a lot of times you might feel great, because especially if you're used to having these travels be filled with a lot of fried foods or other foods, which are still delicious and fantastic. But when you have that apple, you're like, wow, this has restored my mana. Yes, like it's a little different. It's kind of nice because we still want to, again, maybe we need to still focus on having those wholesome meals, right? We're not just having fried stuff, like I said. We're not just having that pizza. So, okay, for a lot of people that are listening or in our realm, like, well, yeah, obviously I'm going to get my protein in somehow, or I'm going to get
You,
some fruits and vegetables somehow.
there's a surprising amount of protein in pizza. We'll be
There is. So you're saying I could have 2 slices when I go to New York?
the thing is, you just have to have enough of the pizza to hit your protein requirement. Like that's the goal. That's what you got to do.
Whole pie. It's like, dude, how much protein is in that? 120 grams. Nice. But it's also like 2,500 calories.
Yeah.
Shh, they don't know. They need to know.
How do you let's say we go through all this stuff, right? And we make a plan. Let's say you're coaching somebody. We have a plan in place. Do you suggest that somebody tracks versus not tracks?
Mhm.
Do you have like a go-to, or is that just another thing that you talk about and see what they're leaning towards? Depending on
It's more of the latter of figuring out all the stuff we talked about before. What kind of trip is it? What's feasible? How much stress are you under? What's realistic? What do you want to do? A lot of times I like to lean away towards tracking just to make everything less stressful in that sense. And focus on more tangible stuff of like, okay, don't track, but again, 2 to 3 meals, try to be more in control of than having someone else prepare it for you. Make sure you're still hitting your protein. Make sure you're creating meals or going out to get meals. Have the center of that meal be the protein, fruits, and veg still, right? So still keeping things to those basics that are a little bit more tangible, but without the tracking in a way. So uh, as much as I can, try to get them away for it, because it's like it just usually means less stress. And then again, there'll be some people who are like, I would prefer to track. And usually those are the people who are more inclined or more closer to a goal. And if that helps, we can do that. We can make it work for sure. That's cool. But just know that we'll have to be still flexible with that in some way. Again, it's going to be a dial. We can dial it up, dial it down a little bit, depending on where you're at. But yeah, I think a lot of it is using that to as a way to take away, like, a transitioning away from tracking for a little bit at least, because then it's just a break in a sense, which is nice. Because again, oftentimes in the travel, why add the more stress? But
Yeah, I agree. I agree. All of this really comes down to that stuff, right? Like just talking through the things.
mhm.
Where are you at in the journey? What are your priorities? What are your values? What is going to help alleviate some stress if we can get away with it, right? Wherever we can. What's going to help you get the most out of the trip without like, you know, backsliding in the results. Unless you're cool with backsliding,
Mm.
and that trade off is worth it, which is fine, right? Um, but it really just comes down to that stuff, I think, right? All the trade offs and just going case by case. And like, there's going to be times where it feels like I have a pretty good example, I think, right? Because like I've had really all of these things that we had this Boston trip, and I mentioned this. I skipped a bunch of the food stuff, and I just stuck with the things that I brought. And then there's like the a few weeks before that trip, we had my girlfriend and I had gone through like North Carolina, and we were in a bunch of places. We were in Asheville for like a week. We're going to these places, and like I skipped some things, but other things it it was worth the trade off to have those things. So calculated, like okay, well I'm going to skip that, but I want to go to this barbecue place because like she used to eat there all the time, and it was like her favorite thing. And they have this really unique like blueberry barbecue sauce. I just want to try it. It was cool.
That
I liked
sounds
it.
fantastic.
But we like I really want to have that, but I'm going to skip this thing because I don't care quite as much about that. It doesn't have nostalgia for her, and it's just it's like mixture on that one, or maybe this most recent trip, like there was a couple things that I said no to, but there was a lot of stuff that I was like, you know what, dude, like I'm on vacation. I want to have fun with this. I want to enjoy it. I don't want to be stressing about this. And it just I'm not diet. I'm sort of maintaining at the moment, and like I don't have a deadline. It's fine, right? It's fine. And now it's much more worth it to me right now to be here and to have these cool food things and just have fun. And then I can do a little. I can diet for 4 weeks later on and cut off whatever fat that I like the 2 pounds that I gained or whatever. Like it's not a big deal. Which I think is also a thing. If you've been doing this for a while, you have those skills and those habits. You can do those sorts of things, right? And it really isn't a big deal. Dieting's not that hard when you're not super lean, right? Other people, myself before I've been doing this for 10 years, whatever, right? Like maybe more than that. That you just don't have those skills and habits yet. So now, like, you want to be much more cautious with making those, like, really just, you know, throw yourself into the wind and see what happens on vacation. Because now, if you go way off the rails, like, you don't, there's a difference between relaxing and just kind of eating whatever, but still being mindful and, like, just eating literally everything because you've been so restricted and so pent up, and I have to eat all this stuff. Because I'm not going to get it again, which, as we talked about, that food's not going anywhere. But when you don't have those skills, it's much more prone that you're going to fall into that camp. That means you got to do this long diet again to recoup those losses, so to speak. But now, like, you don't have tons of dieting skill yet, so that's really hard and feels really stressful, and you can start to kind of spiral in that sense. So you got to know yourself and make decisions accordingly with that. Also,
Yeah, and I think real quick it'd be just cool to touch upon how to navigate stuff when you get back from travel, right? And I think it could be pretty simple of where you just get back on track, right? And knowing that scale weight's probably going to be a little bit higher, but that's just sodium, water retention, food volume, because maybe you've ate a little bit more. Like that's okay too. A lot of times I wouldn't any have people step on the scale for a couple of days or even a week, depending on how long their trip was, just because it's gonna do more harm than any good. It's like, hey, just get back, focus on getting back to your normal routine and your normal habits. Then we'll figure out where we're at with the scale weight, and it'll be more accurate, and also it'll be just easier to get into things because we're focusing on tangible outcomes rather than why is this number doing whatever this is, right? So I think like there's like the worst case scenario is scale is going to be a little bit higher, but you just get back into normal and you continue to ride the momentum of that was part of the plan. Or maybe if it wasn't, next time around I'm going to be better at that, right? I now know what to expect. Like we talked about, it is that skill, so I can practice that skill next time and be better next time. And it's always improving, always learning off of that, and knowing that regardless of how it goes, we just get back to the plan on top of it. We don't want to then punish ourselves in any way after a trip. It's like, you know what, I had too much food, time to add in more carb, or time to do this, time to whatever it is. Like, no, just get back to it, right? Because we don't want to make things harder than it has to be in general, but especially coming off of something that was, you know, supposed to be a trip or whatever, or sometimes just getting back into your regular routine for work and other things can be stressful too. Why add more stress of worrying about scale weight or worrying about whatever it is, if you can do that, right? Again, depending on where you're at and all those things. But I think for most people, just get back to the plan. And that could be comforting for most people as well, because some people just really like routine, and that's great too. So it's just don't worry so much about the after, especially during, because we don't want people to be stressing about that and missing out on being present and their current trip, right? So I think that's a big thing as well, is like making sure to tell yourself or to talk about your coach or have like a rough plan of what things are going to look like afterwards, so that that doesn't creep into your mind during that travel, right? Because again, we don't want additional stress in that way. It's like, hey, here's our plan. Don't even worry about it. It'll be fine. We're coming back. We're not going to weigh ourselves. We're going to hit back the macros exactly like we did before, and you know what that looks like, and you've been crushing it on that front. So continue there. Get back to the training. We'll probably feel better with training, yeah, because we're coming off of that additional food, and we're going to use that to our advantage too, and have great sessions. It's like, yeah, positivity, setting up. You have a great first week back, and then you can adjust based on where you need to be and how things look. Right, so having that plan afterwards, or at least thinking a little bit about it early on too, can be super helpful.
Yeah, very well said. I have nothing to add on that point. Covered it.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
yeah. Thank you. It's yeah. I think that's helpful, and it's, when it comes down to it, it's not that big a deal, right? And I don't mean to laugh it off or say that in a way. It's just like, again, it comes down to where you're at, where you want to be, what those goals are. So take that time as well, and then just, you know, be present and get back to it whenever you can. You'll be fine. Like, you'll be fine. Trust me.
That's like the people always talk about how, like, you know, to lose weight and to keep it off or whatever, right? Like that's most people's goal in the world, right? With body composition stuff. Most people aren't doing a prep, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's got to be a lifestyle. That's what everybody says, which is true, right? But like, what does that mean? It doesn't mean that you never deviate from your macros. It means that, like, there's gonna be deviations, and when there is, you get back home, you get back to normal, you just get back on track, and it's not a huge deal, right? Like, it's not the end of the world. It's fine. Let's just keep doing what we were doing, and everything will kind of take care of itself. And you can kind of dip into those more restricted periods to purposely lose more body fat or whatever, right? But I think that's just, it's huge, right? When we start getting into those, you know, you're kind of stressed because you're dieting, but it's fine, and you have this trip, and it just doesn't go perfectly, and you overate and you did whatever. Now stress is like really high. When we get back home, if it's like, hey, lock in, you got to do this right. Like, we got to make up for all that time lost. We got to correct this. Stress is going way up again, right? That's just not, almost always, that's just not worth it. And so if we can just kind of, like, let's get out of that headspace. Like, okay, let's just get back to where we were. Like you said, maybe we take a handful of days. We don't look at the scale weight because it's just not going to be helpful. We reestablish those habits. Let's get back to those normal routines. Now, take stock. Where are we at? Do we need to make adjustments? Yes or no? And we can do that from a more grounded space. Helps a ton.
Just be kind to yourself, really. That's what it comes down to, because it's just you're only gonna help yourself and be more in line with the goals and stuff that you want to if you're just kind. And again, you do these things that we talked about. Plan ahead. Do the best you can. Be flexible. Know that you're gonna get better at it, and boom, you're gonna be okay. So, yeah. Anything else to add there? Traveling, nutrition, or just kind of? I think we touched upon all of it. Yeah.
Go get you some Nashville hot chicken.
That's
and go to SS Guy. Go to SS Guy. Joshua Weissman said it's the best fried chicken in Tennessee. It is unbelievable. It's so good. So when you're done with prep, because it's not a prep food, when you're done with prep, go visit Nashville. Go to SS Guy. It's phenomenal.
First thing I'm doing, right as soon as the prep ends, I'm just hitting on the plane and going. That's it. But as always, thank you all for listening. If you do have any other questions about it, come let us know. Message us. Come in Discord. We're happy to give some more direction there. Or if you want even more specificity in direction and learning, hit us up for coaching options. Because like we said, it can be super helpful to have someone to really bounce that off of and take care of it for you. Right? Alleviate all that stress. Be more in line with making those goals happen, creating that lifestyle, learning about all these skills, and embracing that. We're always open for that, and we love doing it. So let us know if we can help in any way too. But as always, appreciate you listening, and we will catch you on the next one.